Hi, everybody. Hey. So we are going to get started. Hi, Mustafa. So this past week, 24 Indigenous creatives from around the world traveled to Los Angeles to imagine new climate narratives as a part of the first ever Indigenous Imaginarium. Give it up for them. Woo! And alongside of these directors and cinematographers, producers, and influencers based in Los Angeles, the filmmakers worked on developing their craft and formed a writer's room for new story ideas, influencing and inspiring the stories of the future. But before we bring them out, here is a short trailer of some of their work. Let's get into it.
Este mundo mágico que venimos, debemos captar esas imágenes ahora en la tecnología.
Nós estamos sendo assassinados. Só por nós defender nossa terra, que é a nossa mãe, né?
When we tell our stories, we are taking power of that narrative.
And we are ready to bring out the panelists. Hey, everybody. Hello. So before we get started, could everybody introduce yourselves? We'll start with Leo.
Hi. Hey, I am Leo Cerda. I am indigenous from the Quechua community of Terena in the Ecuadorian Amazon. I'm a creative filmmaker, storyteller, indigenous rights offender, and I'm happy to be here and share with you all today.
Hi, my name is Priscila Tapajowara. I'm from Tapajós people in the Amazon, and I'm a filmmaker, I'm a storyteller, and I'm communicator in Media India.
Akshay Hochomapi. Hello, everyone. My name is Isabela Santana. I'm an actress, also a producer at the NGO If Not As In Who. And I am, the memory and roots of my family are in the northeast of Brazil, Bahia. I'm from the Pataxó Nation. Thank you.
Nake Noé, Eric Terena, Copsoi, Rai Bocoti. Eu sou Eric Terena, sou do Brasil, sou cofundador do Mídia Índia, jornalista e também DJ.
I am Eric Terena from the Terena people. I am co-founder of Media India, journalist, DJ, and also activist.
Lovely. And to kick us off, I think it's really important to remember that Indigenous traditions and culture, that is the blueprint of sustainability. And we would not have sustainability even as a field of study without Indigenous peoples all over the world. So it would be silly not to amplify Indigenous stories. Silly is the best word I could use for that. But there's just so much incredible wisdom on this stage, and I just can't wait for you all to hear their stories. So to kick us off, this is a question for everyone. How can Indigenous cinema transform our climate imagination and help us kind of rebuild better worlds for all people on the planet?
I think Hollywood and the Hollywood industry has demonstrated that it can shift public opinion. We have to remember, marriage equality, women's rights. And in that sense, I think bringing Indigenous narrative front and center can change public opinion and things that really matters. Climate change, climate issues, social justice, racial justice, intersectionality. And I think we as Indigenous people bring those stories and storytelling to the front so that we can remember humanity, how to connect with the planet, how to connect with the spiritual world, because I think we as humans have forgotten how to be humans. And we need to go back to that space. And if the Hollywood industry can do that, and if Indigenous stories can do that, we all are here for that. And I just want to shout out the Indigenous Imaginarian. We all are part of Indigenous Creatives lab that we did here in Hollywood, where we met a bunch of creatives. And we're bringing in this message because we want to connect to our stories so you can connect to the planet and save the planet for the next generations to come. Thank you.
So, can you share how Indigenous cinema can transform our climate imagination, or some thought starters about what you all learned in the past couple of weeks at was it the first? Yes. Yeah. The first Indigenous Imaginarium.
O cinema indígena pra gente, ele é muito importante porque ele é não só a sétima arte, mas ele é uma ferramenta de luta.
The cinema for us as Indigenous people is very important, not only because it's the seventh art, but it's also a tool for our struggle.
A gente usa essa ferramenta para a gente falar sobre as nossas lutas, sobre as nossas culturas, sobre as nossas histórias.
We use this tool to talk about our struggles, about our cultures, about our stories.
E, para além disso, também é uma forma de resguardar um pouco da nossa sabedoria que está sendo perdida.
And beyond that, is also a way for us to protect our wisdom and knowledge that is being lost.
Através do cinema, a gente está mostrando a nossa realidade, a realidade dos povos que vivem na floresta.
And through cinema, we are showing our reality, the reality of people who live in the forest.
E a gente não conta a história somente para a comunidade, mas sim para o público externo.
We don't only talk our stories for our communities, but also for the broader public.
Porque as pessoas precisam saber que também os povos da floresta precisam ser ouvidos.
Because people need to know that people from the forest need to be heard.
Porque a gente não pode separar a luta das mudanças climáticas sem falar, sem apoiar os povos indígenas, os povos da floresta.
We cannot talk about the struggle for climate justice without talking about our struggle as Indigenous people, the struggle of Indigenous peoples from the forest.
Porque nós, povos indígenas, nós seres humanos, somos uma extensão do que há na natureza.
Because us as humans are the extension of everything in nature.
E a gente tem a nossa forma de criar os nossos filmes, que é diferenciado principalmente de Hollywood.
And we have our own ways of creating film, which is different from the pattern in Hollywood.
Porque a gente mostra a nossa cosmovisão, a gente conta a nossa história com um olhar de dentro, com uma sensibilidade que só nós temos.
Because we bring up our cosmovisions, we bring up the perspective that come from inside out.
E isso é uma forma que está ajudando, principalmente no Brasil, a mudar um pouco sobre a comunicação sobre o cinema.
And the sensitive way we are communicating is very important to change the communication we've been doing in Brazil and in the world.
Porque a gente está falando, contando as nossas próprias narrativas.
Because we are telling our own narratives.
E a gente precisa que mais pessoas ouçam para que a gente consiga realmente mudar sobre as questões climáticas.
And we really need people to actually listen to us so change can be done with the climate action. Okay, it's me, right? Okay. So I would talk also from my perspective as an actress. I believe that we as Indigenous people, in everything that we are doing, like just standing here, we are bringing up the memories of our family, our territories, the places we came from, the plants, the secrets, the languages. So I think that just by being present and being able to actually work in projects and movies in front and behind the cameras, we are bringing our force that is unique. We have more than 300 nations in Brazil, more than 300 words and stories with many, and words with many stories, many perspectives. So I think it's just about us being able to tell our stories is transforming, and you being able to listen to it.
Bom, eu fico feliz de estar ao lado desse time gigante aqui do meu lado.
I'm very happy to be besides this giant team.
Bom, para mim, enquanto DJ, ativista e comunicador indígena,
To me, as an Indigenous DJ, activist, and communicator,
o cinema ele tem ajudado a gente em dois aspectos.
cinema is been supporting us in two aspects.
O primeiro é dentro do cinema indígena a gente pode ser quem a gente quer.
First is inside Indigenous cinema, we can be whoever we want to be.
E a outra parte é de que no Brasil a gente vem sofrendo muita violação de direitos.
And the second part is that in Brazil we've been suffering through a lot of violation of our rights.
Principalmente a desinformação.
Mainly the disinformation, misinformation.
Historicamente, o Brasil foi descoberto.
Historically, Brazil has been discovered.
E a primeira carta dizia que não existiam habitantes ali.
And the first letter would say that there were no inhabitants there.
Mas nós estávamos ali.
But we were there.
E até hoje a gente luta contra esse silenciamento.
And until today, we fight against this silence.
E o cinema faz a gente fazer parte desse mundo.
And cinema makes us to be part of this world.
Porque o cinema traz com ele o nosso imaginário.
Because cinema brings within it our imaginarium,
A nossa sabedoria.
our knowledge,
As nossas músicas ancestrais.
our ancestral music,
E principalmente a manutenção da nossa tradição.
and mainly the maintenance of our traditions.
E por fim, estar hoje fazendo cinema é mais uma vez estar fazendo a revolução na comunicação.
And today, being able to make Indigenous cinema is being able to make revolution in communication.
E é importante. E por fim, para finalizar, é importante que hoje as nossas histórias são contadas por nós mesmos.
And to conclude, it's important that our stories are being told by us.
Se não formos nós, quem?
If not us, then who?
So, another question for everyone again. So, how is Hollywood doing right now when it comes to supporting Indigenous filmmakers? And how can the industry be better? And please be as candid as you'd like to be about any progress that you've seen or things that need to start happening, whether it's on set, whether it's, film crews, whatever it might look like. How can Hollywood do better?
Okay, I will start. I think Hollywood, it's an old structure, right? And we as this industry, we need to shift that. And I think that is happening little by little, and not as fast as we can and as fast as we need. We have the Reservation Dogs on TV, and we see how successful that show is, and how nuance is that for that show to be successful in this industry. So we as artists, creatives, need to make sure we have open platforms for Indigenous creatives, not only in front of the camera or behind the camera or as executive assistants. Because we are lawyers, we are doctors, we are actors, we're producers, we're directors, we're executive producers. We need to know that and just make sure that we can have that openness to not only Indigenous people, but for people of color who have long been awaited to be part of this industry. We just had the Oscars on Sunday, and for the first time, you had an Oscar nominee from Asian descent to win an Oscar. How can that happen? We're in 2023, and we have yet the first. So each of us, in whichever part of the industry that we're working, just make sure that we have open, safe spaces and create those spaces. Because not only our stories, but also give us the chance to be in the writer's room, in the producer's rooms, in all those spaces that we have not had the chance to be. And not only as assistants, just because we want to be in all the different parts of the industry. If we want to move that shift, you want to shift that consciousness, that opinion, because we can make that happen, and we have so little time. And we know that without racial justice, there is no climate justice, there is no Hollywood justice, there's no kind of justice. So just make sure and open your eyes and have that space open for people like us.
Bom, eu continuo apoiando o que o Léo falou
I support what Leo just said.
e coloco ainda um pouco mais.
And I add a little bit more.
Eu acho que a gente precisa pensar em não só incluir os povos indígenas no Oscar
I think we need to think not only about including Indigenous people in Oscars
ou nos filmes de Hollywood,
or in Hollywood movies,
também. Mas a gente precisa criar também a nossa categoria indígena.
of course, yeah, that includes supporting, but we also need to create our own category as Indigenous peoples.
A gente fica sempre esperando uma oportunidade.
We always look for opportunities,
E às vezes essa oportunidade nunca vai chegar.
and sometimes this opportunity will never come.
Enquanto isso, a gente está dentro do território fazendo os nossos filmes,
Within that time, we are inside our territories doing our own movies
que são tão bons quanto os de Hollywood.
that are as good as Hollywood movies.
Então a gente precisa fortalecer e pensar que aqui, Hollywood, precisa fortalecer outros cenários, outros lugares.
So we need to be more strong in a way that Hollywood needs to strengthen our backgrounds, our stories, other, yeah, outlets. Yeah,
Thank you, Leo.
thank you.
Thank you, Isa. E para finalizar, a gente precisa estar parte, mas também fazer a nossa diferença. E essa diferença só se constrói quando a gente tem iniciativas de apoio às nossas criatividades.
And just to conclude, we need to make part of it, but also create our own projects. And for that, we need the support, the financial support to do that,
Para fortalecer nossa criatividade.
to make more strong our creativity.
Isso.
Eu apoio o que os dois falaram, mas
I support what both of them said.
eu também acredito que, sendo um pouco mais direta,
I also believe being more direct, point forward.
eu acho que Hollywood, para além disso, poderia criar apoios, oportunidade para os jovens cineastas indígenas.
I think that Hollywood industry needs to create opportunities and support for indigenous filmmakers.
Isso poderia ser de criação de plataformas onde os cineastas e artistas indígenas poderiam estar mostrando seu trabalho.
This could be through platforms where indigenous creatives and filmmakers and artists could show their work.
Oportunidade de estágio, de bolsas de estudo.
Opportunity of internships, scholarships.
Ou até mesmo um apoio financeiro para as organizações indígenas que estão na base e os coletivos de audiovisual e comunicação.
Or even financial support for indigenous organizations that are on the ground.
Como Eric falou, nós produzimos muitos filmes, muitas música, pinturas, dança, muitas coisas bonitas.
As Eric said, we as indigenous people, we do many productions, not only movies, but paintings, music, dancing.
Porque nós indígenas, a gente já nasce artista.
Because we as indigenous people, we are born artists.
A gente aprende a cantar, a gente aprende a dançar, a gente aprende a pintar, a gente aprende a ver o mundo de uma forma diferente.
We learn to dance, we learn to sing, we learn to paint, we learn how to see a world in a different way.
E a gente quer ter essa oportunidade para mostrar essa nossa visão também para o mundo.
And we need the opportunity to show this vision to the world.
Então, é por isso que eu acredito que Hollywood precisa abrir portas e dar oportunidade para que nós, povos indígenas, chegamos em outros espaços.
That's why Hollywood needs to have open doors for us as indigenous people to arrive in different places.
Nós estamos aqui há muitos anos.
We are here for many, many years.
Mas a gente ainda não é visto da forma que a gente deveria ser visto.
But we are still not seen the way we should be seen.
E a gente ainda não tem espaço para contar nossas histórias da forma que deveriam ser contadas por nós, que somos protagonistas.
And we still do not have a space to tell their stories the way that we should tell as protagonists. That's it. I am with them too. I'm going to add a little bit more, but I agree with everything that's been said here. I would just add that it's also about us as indigenous peoples being able to explore many different genres and not, being able to explore that. Like, of course, we want to talk about our territories, about the forests, but there are many other things that we want to talk about, not only based on that and our struggle, our suffering. We want to talk about our happiness, the love we feel. And I think that's about that, also being able to explore everything, because that's what we've been doing. We are humans. So, yeah, we want to be able to show that.
That was beautiful. And just because we were talking about this behind stage, Leo, could you share a little bit more about the work that you're doing to help kind of promote Black and Indigenous solidarity? And then the music project you were doing, because that was pretty dope. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, yeah. Well, I am the co-founder of the Black Indigenous Liberation Movement, a coalition of Black and Indigenous communities, networks to work around the issues of racial justice and the intersectionality with climate justice. And we've been working like 22 different countries doing like a small projects. And one of the things that we do is, one of the approaches is that we do it through the arts and creativity. And last year we just did a concert on Christopher Columbus Day and the discovery of the Americas. And we rename it and we call it Black and Indigenous Liberation Day. And I think us coming from the advocacy world and in the front lines, I would say that we need to think and shift that change and do it through the arts and creativity, because a lot of nonprofits and people who we wanted funding from, they said, oh, you need to do a workshop and this is the way you should do it. And I was like, why wouldn't you do a concert? We should like bring more people, more youth, and like we'll invite indigenous, Black and Indigenous artists to the scenario, and we can talk about this and spread the word. And like there are different spaces that we can have the same conversations in a more valued added platform. And I think we need to find those spaces and bring in more people and support more creatives and art and DJ and music, because we can have all of this conversation also dancing in the back of the rooms.
Okay, we only have a little bit more time left, but I have so many questions. Priscilla, you are a cinematographer. What drew you to wanting to become a cinematographer?
O que me fez querer entrar no cinema foi contar as histórias que eu ouvia do meu avô, dos anciões de onde eu venho.
What made me want to do cinema was hearing the stories of my grandfathers and grandmothers.
E principalmente porque na minha região eu via muitas pessoas brancas falando sobre a nossa história, sobre a nossa luta, mas eu não me sentia representada.
Because mainly in my region, I would see many white people talking about our stories, and I didn't feel represented by that.
Então eu queria ocupar esse espaço e também ser uma representatividade para outros jovens.
And I wanted to occupy this space and also represent our youth.
Então por esse motivo eu saí da minha cidade, fui estudar.
That's why I got out of my city, went to study.
E voltei para minha cidade e hoje eu realizo formações de audiovisual para jovens indígenas, principalmente mulheres.
And got back to my region, so today I can do trainings and workshops for my people and mainly indigenous women.
E eu faço parte do Mídia Índia já tem há 7 anos.
I'm also part of Media India. It's been 7 years.
Que também é um coletivo muito grande no Brasil que tem revolucionado a comunicação.
Which is also a big collective in Brazil, which is doing revolution in the communication.
E a gente vem cada vez mais ocupando espaços e falando sobre o nosso movimento indígena.
And we've been more and more times occupying this space and talking about our struggle as indigenous peoples.
E o que me move estar dentro do cinema, porque o cinema no Brasil, como aqui em Hollywood.
And that moves me to be in the cinema, not only in Brazil, but also in Hollywood.
É a força dos meus ancestrais para contar mais sobre a nossa luta.
What moves me is the strength of my ancestors to talk more about our struggle.
Porque, como aqui no Brasil, o cinema é muito elitista e branco.
Because since in Brazil, the cinema is very white and elitist.
E é muito difícil a gente tentar se manter no mercado do audiovisual.
It's very hard to maintain ourselves in the film industry.
Mas a gente tem um objetivo que é ocupar cada vez mais espaços e contar nossas narrativas.
But we have the goal that is occupying more and more spaces and tell our narratives.
E especialmente mim é que eu faça com que outros jovens indígenas e não indígenas se sintam representados.
And especially me, I want to make the indigenous youth feel represented.
E que possam estar buscando também, ocupando novos espaços.
And look forward also for them to be occupying other spaces.
E chegar nesse lugar aqui também como vocês para contar nossas histórias.
And be in this space just like all of you to tell their own stories.
Então eu quero agradecer o If Not As Who.
So I want to thank If Not As Who.
Porque a gente está aqui a convite dele.
Because we are here invited by them too.
Por causa do imaginário indígena.
Because of the indigenous imaginarium.
Que foi um espaço muito legal, onde a gente pudesse estar se conectando com outros cineastas indígenas e não indígenas.
Which was a very nice space created for us to connect with indigenous and also non-indigenous filmmakers.
É isso.
Thank you.
And so before we wrap, how can everyone in the audience stay up to date with what you all are working on and the projects you all are doing? Maybe we can start with Eric.
Bom, atualmente eu tenho 2 trabalhos no Brasil.
Now I have 2 works in Brazil.
O primeiro é com o Mídia Índia, junto com Priscila e outros mais 800 comunicadores indígenas.
The first is with Media India, which includes Priscila and more 800 indigenous communicators.
E a outra como DJ.
And the second one as a DJ.
Como DJ, eu faço trilhas sonoras para filmes e documentários.
As a DJ, I do music soundtrack for films and documentaries.
E toco em festivais.
I also play in festivals.
A minha música vem da minha ancestralidade, do meu povo.
My music comes from my ancestry, from my people.
No meu povo, a música ela é uma herança vinda de um sonho.
To my people, the music is an heritage that comes from the dream.
E não tive muita escolha, então tive que atender esse chamado.
I didn't have much options, so I had to attend to this calling.
Então faço esse trabalho musical, né, com outros artistas indígenas pelo mundo.
So I do this musical work with other indigenous artists around the world.
Porque a música ela não é só uma música para dançar.
Because music is not a music only to dance.
Ela tem uma mensagem, ela tem uma história.
It has a message, a story.
Ela faz parte da nossa espiritualidade.
It is part of our spirituality.
Toda vez que um indígena canta, existe um significado.
Every time an indigenous person sings, there is a meaning.
Então, um pouco desse trabalho vocês podem conferir no Mídia Índia.
So a little bit of this work you guys can check out at Mídia Índia.
No YouTube.
On YouTube.
Eric Terena.
Eric Terena.
E também no Instagram, Eric Terena.
And also on the Instagram, Eric Terena.
E no Spotify.
And Spotify.
E hoje à noite eu vou ter a oportunidade de tocar aqui.
And tonight I will be also playing here, so.
Okay, and then Isa, I know we're out of time, but I want you all to get to know each and every one of them because they're just so cool. So how can we stay up to date with what you're doing?
Okay, so on April 17 is my debut on cinema. I will be part of a series at the channel Global, which is the biggest media outlet in Latin America and in Brazil. I'm very excited for that. And then you can also follow me on social media. I'll be posting everything about where you guys can watch. Yeah. And you also follow If Not Then Who's social media to follow up our work, what we've been doing, what we will do. And yeah, Isabela A. Santana, maybe I can share, I don't know. But yeah, that's it.
Fala do seu trabalho, como a gente pode te encontrar e te acompanhar.
Vocês podem me acompanhar através das redes sociais, que é o Instagram,
You can follow in my social media, which is Instagram,
Priscila Tapajowara.
Priscila Tapajowara.
Acessar o meu o canal no YouTube,
Follow my YouTube channel,
que é Tapajowara Filmes,
Tapajowara Films,
que é a minha produtora independente,
which is my independent production company,
onde eu produzo filmes falando sobre a realidade da onde eu venho,
where I produce films talking about the reality from where I come from,
que é uma região onde está sendo muito ameaçada pelo garimpo, pela soja.
which is a region that is being very devastated by mining and monoculture.
E então, no site e também no Instagram do Mídia Índia.
On the website and also on Instagram of Mídia Índia.
You can find us on Black Indigenous Liberation Movement. Also, my handle is Amazon Leo. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.